Chapter 9 addresses service coordination, which is defined as the administrative, clinical, and evaluative activities bringing the client, treatment services, community agencies, and other resources together as part of the total treatment plan for the client. It will be good to know that case management is described as planning and coordinating a package of health and social services that are individualized to meet a particular client's needs in a coordinated, effective, and efficient manner. Case management and coordination of services are key to the provision of integrated or concurrent treatment and of appropriate referrals. Chapter 10 starts into some of the specific skills of being an effective counselor. Know that the material suggests the successful substance abuse counselor will have the ability to be empathetic with the client, providing information with compassion while still maintaining professional and healthy boundaries. The counselor must be able to assess basic skills deficits of the client who may not have experienced typical development as an adolescent. For example, because a client started using or abusing drugs at a young age and doesn't get sober until his or her 40s, developmental stages may have been missed. The development of self-image, self-esteem, issues of authority, and relationships with the opposite sex may be lacking. The counselor should be able to provide guidance to the client in establishing healthy schedules and routines, such as by modeling or displaying healthy behaviors so that the client can learn by your example. This includes enforcing program rules in order to reinforce beneficial client conduct and actions, and be aware of cultural differences that may have an impact on how a client perceives him or herself in the recovery process. Chapter 11 gets into group counseling knowledge and skills with some upfront disclaimers that individual therapy is not equivalent to group therapy, and 12-step programs are not group therapy. 12-step programs may complement the recovery process by helping the individual to remain abstinent, while the group therapy provides opportunities for the individual to understand the emotional and interpersonal conflicts that contribute to substance abuse. You should understand the various group models typically used in substance abuse treatment and be able to distinguish between them. For example, psychoeducational groups are designed to educate clients about substance abuse and related behaviors and consequences. Support groups bolster members' efforts to develop and strengthen their ability to manage their thinking and emotions and to develop better interpersonal skills as they recover. Also understand that counselor appreciation of diversity of client backgrounds is not just related to race or religion, but includes age, gender, sexual orientation, social class, education, parental status, and criminal justice system involvement. In other words, diversity issues affect everyone, and all individuals have unique characteristics and backgrounds. Review the various examples of how people from different cultures may respond to different situations, such as who may be automatically designated an authority figure in a certain group setting, or whether some may be reluctant to openly share or disagree with certain other members of the group. Know about and be able to distinguish between the various stages of recovery, which is different than the stages of change, including early recovery, middle recovery, and late recovery and maintenance. Chapter 12 covers the final counseling skills section related to counseling families, couples, and significant others. Know that the goal of involving families in treatment is to increase family members' understanding of the client's substance use disorder as a treatable chronic disease with related psychosocial components. Family-based services can increase family support for the client's recovery, educate the family about what to expect in the recovery process, including relapse, and encourage family members to participate in a long-term support program for themselves. Chapter 13 covers client, family, and community education, which is the process of providing those with information on risks related to psychoactive substance use, as well as prevention, treatment, and recovery resources. This chapter also provides some additional demographic and cultural information as examples of client diversity considerations, which is important information for the competent counselor. There is also good diversity consideration information related to persons with HIV, AIDS, LGBT clients, persons with physical and cognitive disabilities, clients in rural populations, homeless clients, and older adults. Regarding the younger population, there is important information about why adolescence is a critical time for preventing drug addiction, and there are a number of important factors included in the Key Facts section. For example, by 2020, mental and substance abuse disorders will surpass all physical diseases as a major cause of disability worldwide. Annually, tobacco use results in more deaths than AIDS, unintentional injuries, suicide, homicide, and alcohol and drug abuse combined. Half of all lifetime cases of mental and substance use disorders begin by age 14 and 3/4 by age 24. And adults who begin drinking alcohol before age 21 are more likely to be later classified with alcohol dependence or abuse than those who had their first drink at or after age 21. Chapter 14 covers the importance of accurate documentation, which includes the recording of the screening and intake process, assessment, treatment plan, clinical reports, clinical progress notes, discharge summaries, and other client-related data. Proper and accurate recording of treatment recovery plan information is a critical requirement for counselors. Progress notes are where the counselor provides detailed and objective reporting of client attitudes, behavior, and progress toward meeting short and long-term objectives, as detailed in the treatment plan. Be accurate and descriptive in your progress notes. Don't make things up. Document, document, document. In other words, when events or conduct occur which are or may be important to the progress of your client, accurately and descriptively document it within the progress notes. In other words, if something happens, it should be reflected in the progress notes. Recommendations for treatment changes should be made in the progress notes. Client progress toward achieving goals should be documented in progress notes. Client activities consistent or inconsistent with the treatment plan should be documented in the progress notes. Chapter 15 addresses the professional and ethical responsibilities of the counselor. Much of this information has already been discussed in this tutorial, but it is an important area and is where most counselors get into trouble from regulatory agencies, and you will do well to review the information in this chapter. The Code of Federal Regulations, CFR Title 42, Part 2, restricts the disclosure of records or other information concerning patients or clients in an alcohol or drug program, except under limited and specific circumstances, and you should know when those limited circumstances apply. The general principle and the general rule to remember in the 42 CFR Part 2 prohibition is don't release patient-client information. Know the very limited exceptions, which are written release from the client, emergency medical situation, a release pursuant to other qualified service organization agreements, mandated reporting for child abuse, qualified research, a crime on the premises or a crime against a staff member off the premises, or a properly executed court order, not just a subpoena. Also know what the exceptions do not include and when the exceptions may or may not apply, including a subpoena issued by an attorney in a lawsuit is not a court order. An arrest or search warrant being executed by a police officer is not enough for the counselor to acknowledge the presence of a particular patient or client. However, you should never try to physically stop the officer from executing the warrant. As discussed previously in this tutorial, the knowledge of transference and countertransference are important for the counselor, and it is mentioned in this chapter. Transference refers to feelings and issues from the past that the client projects onto the counselor in the current relationship. And countertransference refers to the range of reactions and responses that the counselor has toward the client based on the counselor's own background and personal issues. Be able to identify actions that demonstrate the existence of transference and countertransference in the counseling relationship. Now that we have finished the tutorial, you should go back and review all of your notes and all of the highlights that you made in the books. If you know the material in these books, you should be successful on the exam. The CATC exam is not easy, but if you know the material in the books and as pointed out in this tutorial, you should do fine. And by passing this scientifically validated exam, you will demonstrate that you have the knowledge and skills to be a competent counselor in an alcohol and other drug or substance use disorders treatment setting. Good luck, and keep up the good work that you are doing in this honorable profession.